right, UFC 302 is officially in the books. Just concluded UFC 302 this past Saturday, headlined by Islam Makhachev versus Dustin Poirier. Poirier, what looks like might be his final fight in his UFC career, facing the number one pound for pound fighter in the world in Islam Makhachev. Yes, I said number one pound for pound. I do not care what Dana White said. Dana White is clearly just kissing ass to John Jones, because John Jones and Dana White have rebuilt their business relationship with one another. But yeah, that was the main event. We had Sean Strickland versus Paulo Costa, Kevin Holland versus Michal Olazechek. That was a featured fight. Overall, the card, honestly, without the main event, you had Kevin Holland versus Michal Olazechek, or Michael Olazechek, whatever you don't want to pronounce his name. Without that, the Mickey Basil Hafez fight was actually really good. And yeah, that's me. You know, Randy Brown versus Elias Zaleski dos Santos. Without maybe those four fights, to be honest, card wasn't really that great overall. A lot of fights really. I mean, Andre Lima versus Mitch Raposo. That was a good fun fight, in my opinion, to start off the card. Okay, but overall, I really didn't see it as like anything entertaining. Like, especially like if you're trying to gravitate like friends that don't really follow the sport, and this is the card you show them. Not really that type of card that you wanted to show them. To me personally, UFC 301 was way better than this, alright, as a card entirely, and it didn't have nowhere near the star power that UFC 302 had. Sean Strickland versus Paulo Costa, honestly, from round 1 to round 5, it felt like the same exact fight, alright? Same exact fight, and you know what? To the credit of Sean Strickland, because he ended up winning that fight, you can't knock him for it. You had a game plan, you stuck to it, and you ended up carrying it through. Paulo Costa, was on the back foot, going backwards almost the entirety of the fight. All right, and Sean Strickland was just walking him down, walking straight, just kicking him, throwing a 1-2 punch combination, and making sure that Paulo Costa couldn't stand his ground. And what Rogan said is true. You don't realize it as a fighter when you're backpedaling, that much, the entirety of the fight, how much it's draining your gas tank and how incredibly tired you get. And you saw within like the ending of round 2 how tired Costa was, and Strickland played it safe, that to his own discretion, he played it safe, and he ended up working his way through to a decision victory. He amped it up in the last like 15 seconds of the fight, once he knew there was very little risk for him to losing the fight, and it pretty much looked identically to the Israel Adesanya fight. But the main event, Islam Makhachev versus Dustin Poirier. Dustin Poirier coming out to Diamonds, the cover by Willie Spence, and then it was a matchup between that and The Boss by James Brown. Dustin ended up coming out there, honestly, looking a lot better than most people anticipated. I think I saw betting odds as high as plus 550 for Dustin Poirier, and I'm like, wow, like that is really ridiculous, because Dustin Poirier, I don't care who it is, Dustin Poirier will not fight as a plus 550 underdog. And Islam Makhachev, I know, as great as he is, he is not miles lengths way better than Dustin Poirier, and it showed on Saturday. Now, I ended up placing a bet on Islam by submission, which it cashed, yes, and Islam retained the belt, but was not anticipating for Islam to dominate the way that Vegas thought that he was going to. To me, he didn't look like a minus 600 favorite. The fight was relatively close. Round 1, I gave it to Islam. Dustin got taken down. I gave it a 10-8, to be honest, and I was like questioning it, but then I was confident, looking back at it. 10-8 first round. You can argue a 10-9, but it was a 10-8. And then round 2, I gave it to Dustin Poirier. Dustin Poirier ended up stopping some takedowns. He was able to make the adjustments onto stopping the takedowns from Islam, pouring more of a boxing matchup. And then it was 19-18 Islam Makhachev round 3. That was an Islam round. Islam, had a hard time trying to take down Dustin Poirier, and he was throwing more volume. Dustin was being a little bit more methodical on like how he was going to pick his shots, because he knew that if he was going to be erratic, then Islam would just take him down. And Dustin Poirier, many people forget, but he doesn't really have the greatest hips. All right, doesn't really have great takedown defense. That's also one of the reasons why he ended up pulling out of his fight with Nate Diaz a couple years back when they were supposed to fight at MSG, because he ended up needing like hip replacement. As one reason why you don't see Dustin throwing high kicks, because he really can't. He really doesn't have great hip movement. And one thing you need, to stop good takedowns is you need to have that core strength right over here in your hip area. Well, fortunately, Dustin has grandpa hips, and he is going to have to need to make some type of, I guess, maybe like surgery down the line as he gets older, because he got taken down ruthlessly in previous fights, like with Benoit Saint-Denis, Khabib, Charles, you name it, right? Islam was able to take over in round 3, right? Like I said, take over in round 3, use the boxing and stuff like that. Dustin showed that he could stop some of his takedowns, but Dustin was just more being aware of how he was going to implement his game style. He says he got beaten up pretty bad by Gamrot, being taken down and destroyed, from a wrestling standpoint. So he had a good game plan. Luckily, he had a Gamrot in his corner, and he was cornering him. And then in round 4, you saw Islam trying to go back to the striking, and I'm thinking to myself, why is Islam trying to just strike with this guy? I feel like Khabib and Islam are very different in the aspect of, like, Khabib, he doesn't care about ego and stuff like that. He has one mindset: I'm gonna take you down and I'm gonna maul you, right? I'm gonna maul you, and I'm gonna just pulverize you. Islam, he's a good defensive fighter. He can strike way better striker than Khabib Nurmagomedov, right? He could take you down. He has great sambo wrestling, right? But I feel like sometimes his ego gets in the way, and sometimes he wants to just outbeat you at your own game. And yes, he was pouring more volume than Dustin Poirier. But Poirier, honestly, when they were in the clinch, Poirier ended up muscling up great, boxing inside the clinch. Ripping at the body, throwing combinations, throwing little uppercuts and stuff like that. I was really impressed on Dustin Poirier. Gave that round to Dustin Poirier. You could have given it to Islam Makhachev, but I gave it to Dustin. Going into it, it was 2-2. Remember the 10-8, in round 1. That was a big deciding thing. And then going to round 5, Dustin needed a knockout. There was no way that he was going to get a finish. And it was looking pretty good, up until Dustin ended stopping a takedown. Islam grabs onto the ankle, and this is some next level shit. All right, when in the world of grappling, grabs the ankle, spins him around, like just throws the ankle around, spins him, has Dustin, spin around, go down on one knee, right? Islam jumps and pounces at Poirier while he's on one knee has one knee on the ground, goes for a guillotine, disguises that. Dustin tries to maneuver his way out of it, and then as Islam disguises the guillotine, he really would try to set up for the Dars. And then once he had the Dars, that thing was tight. I at that point, Dustin had no other option but to tap out, and the fight was over in round 5. Vegas did not anticipate this fight going more than 3 rounds. They had the over-under at 2.5. I thought this fight was going to be over around round 3. But for this fight to last to round 5 was pretty incredible. Dustin Poirier, right after the loss, ended up saying that he believes this might be it. He didn't officially lock the door and say that he's retiring. I think he would come back for maybe one more fight, and I think that one more fight would be Nate Diaz. But yep, Dustin, that's it. I think that he wouldn't be fighting anymore at lightweight. I don't think he's going to fight anymore for the rest of the year. I think he wants to take some time and spend time with his family. He just fought recently in March in Miami and knocked out Benoit Saint-Denis. This is actually a pretty quick turnaround. Islam, defended his belt. Now has 3 title defenses. Tied with Khabib Nurmagomedov. Has 4 title wins. Tied with BJ Penn, Benson Henderson, and Khabib Nurmagomedov. One more win, and that will put Islam to rarefied era as the only person to defend the belt 4 times. What's next for Islam? He wants to fight for the welterweight title. Unfortunately, I do not see that happening. Dana White doesn't want to see that happen. Dana White wants to see him fight Arman Tsarukyan. Me, personally, I know that Islam wants to fight in Madison Square Garden. I would love to see that matchup. Islam versus Arman in MSG. But unfortunately, it doesn't make any sense because in October they have the pay-per-view in Abu Dhabi. So it looks like Islam versus Arman Tsarukyan in Abu Dhabi most likely will be the main event for that pay-per-view card in October. That will be bonkers over there. Plus, Islam is treated like a king over there. Arman will definitely have a lot more fans there as opposed to stateside. So I'm actually looking forward to that. I would love for them to make that official so we could just move on with that. But yeah, Islam wants to move it to welterweight. Do not see that happening for at least maybe 1 or 2 more fights. Already gave you the breakdown between Strickland and Costa. What's next for Strickland, in my opinion? I think Strickland should just sit this one out. He won the match. Just wait and see if Dricus is going to fight him next, or he's going to fight Israel Adesanya. And if that's the case, if Dricus is going to fight Adesanya, winner gets Sean Strickland next. Costa, who knows what's going to happen? This is back-to-back losses so far this year on a quick turnaround. Second time since 2017 that Costa has fought multiple times within a calendar year. Costa, in my opinion, I think he should come back, give or take around Madison Square Garden time. Give him somebody like he's coming off multiple losses in a row. I wouldn't mind seeing him fight somebody like a Brad Tavares or something of that ilk. To be honest, I really would love to see him fight Kelvin Gastelum, just because I know Kelvin fought at welterweight just recently, but I really would like to see him fight that. 2 guys who are pretty durable, who are hard to knock out, 3-round fight, make that happen. If not, the only other middleweight that I would want to see him fight, and I know some people say Bo Nickel, I don't want to see that fight. And I think he's well past the Hamzat train. Is Paulo Costa, honestly, against Fluffy Hernandez. That'll be a great fight. And Fluffy's the real deal, in my opinion. And then lastly, Kevin Holland versus Michelle Oleksiejczuk. Kevin Holland came in there, fought at 185. Got rocked. I think it was by a swinging left hand by Michelle Oleksiejczuk. Michelle Oleksiejczuk tried to pounce on him, got caught in the preparation for the armbar. Kevin pulls back the arm, and Oleksiejczuk's arm looks like it's about to rip off, and it looked like right over here that the bone was starting to stick out a little bit. And Kevin, I don't know what he said to the ref. I think he said something like, I think it snapped. Ref Herb Dean, I believe that was the ref that was refereeing the match, looked at it and said, that's it, fight's over, fight's over. Michelle Oleksiejczuk immediately tried to protest. He said he didn't tap, but it doesn't matter. If the arm is broken, you can't continue to fight. Oleksiejczuk is very, very tough, and that was honestly the prop of the night. Kevin Holland by submission, because Michelle Oleksiejczuk, outside of a decision, has never been finished outside of a submission. So Kevin Holland ended up cashing in a lot of people's tickets. But yeah, guys, that was what happened at UFC 302. We were supposed to get Josh Van versus Tatsuro Taira. That would have been a huge boost to the card. Overall, the card on paper looked good. On the actual fights, man, it was at best no more than a 6.5. The crowd wasn't that great. Jersey wasn't that ramped up, and there wasn't many finishes. There was a lot of decisions. But yeah, guys, on to the next one. And next card is in Louisville. It will be headlined by Jared Cannonier versus Nasruddin Imavov. Raul Rosas Jr. versus Ricky Turcios will be on that card as well too. And then return to Dominic Reyes against Dustin Jacoby. Can't wait to see that this Saturday. So then, guys, thank you for tuning in for the recap show for UFC 302. I am Flavo Ariana, and I am signing out. Peace, guys, and have a good one. See you.